After going through our roles and responsibilities as a blended learning teacher, it is time to revisit and reinvent our instructional design in such a way that it would promote authentic learning. We have to bear in mind what this blended learning entails. Is it limited face-to-face as what we have now? Is it 50-50 ODL and face-to-face? Now, these are things to consider before we start going through our syllabus or our CG. As we start restructuring, let us begin with the end in mind. There is a need to specify through our goals, objectives, and outcomes what knowledge and skills a successful learner in blended learning can possess at the end of the lesson or course. Inasmuch as we are aware of creating a detailed plan to scaffold learners and align all activities and assessment along this learning, we should take into account that in blended learning, it is ideal to have the combination of rich interaction, frequent feedback, and periodic reflection on learning. We must think of ways to seamlessly integrate a complete developmental learning experience using the two learning environments and reflect them in our learning plans. We might say that we are used to making objectives and outcomes in our courses, but let us be reminded to tightly align goals, objectives, and outcomes along with our resources and assessments that's workable within our defined blended learning environment. Let us be reminded to carefully outline our learning goals with a blended learning environment in mind in such a way that our learners can have a clear focus and can hit the targets realistically. Can this goal be achieved in this type of learning environment? Let's always ask that question. In setting our objectives, we should see to it that we can measure classroom and student performance in real time. And at the end of a unit or a topic, again, with both learning environments in mind. Which objectives can be measured online? Which ones should be done face-to-face? It's not mandatory that all grading should be done face-to-face. As for the outcomes, it should define how students will achieve objectives and demonstrate the competency in the subject matter. Specific outcomes could include face-to-face classroom activities, online activities, or actual presentation and demonstration. Aside from your goals, objectives, and outcomes being reinvented, are our teaching learning activities still in line with blended learning? Let us see the mechanics of the shift. In face-to-face, I know we miss this, but we teachers demonstrate and our students practice and create their own or demonstrate, and then we grade them. When we shifted to online distance learning, we were compelled to do pre-recorded lectures and demos, share them along with other online resources to our students, and then students do the drill and practice on their own and attend synchronous sessions for knowledge skills deepening by asking the questions and then share what they have discovered while doing things on their own, with the teachers giving them feedback. And then performance tasks and graded activities are done on their own and documented through a video. And we in turn give their marks online. For blended learning, we can combine the process. Because limited face-to-face session is gold, we should not waste it with lectures and other stuff that can be executed online. So we apply what we have done in ODL in terms of lectures, easy to follow demonstrations, and sharing of online resources. If formative activities can be done online, then the better. For the limited face to face session, we focus on active learning, that is, for our students to perform activities with direct feedback from the teacher and graded activities and performance tasks that need to be done face to face. All these activities should be sensibly evaluated whether it should be done online or face to face. In planning out our instructional design, and given the circumstance of limited face to face, we should choose a blended learning model. The previous lesson has presented us the various blended learning models we can utilize for the entire course. First to consider in choosing a model is our class size. We should keep the class size limited. Feedback takes time under circumstances, and that means protecting our students and our class sizes. Pedagogy-wise, do you consider to do synchronous sessions online while having face-to-face sessions, since not all students have agreed to do face-to-face? So things like that. Most importantly, choose a model that's workable given your school's resources and capabilities in dealing with limited face-to-face, as well as the one that would work with a drafted instructional design. Flipped classroom might be the most popular or the go-to model, and admittedly, I am a practicing flipped classroom teacher, but it does not mean that it is the best blended learning model of all. Are we ready for flex model? We might consider that. For basic ed teachers, we might want to look into station rotation to prepare for blended learning in the future. Currently, most programs that were granted limited face-to-face are in the field of medical science and health. In a study by Nathaniel and Black in 2021, they used an adaptive blended learning approach, pivoting wet laboratory neuroanatomy activities to online using an adaptive, flexible, blended method. Another, another term created for another branch of blended learning. For the laboratory portion of the course, which required detailed examination and identification of anatomical structures, students were provided with interactive virtual activities. Implementation of each laboratory session in the adaptive blended learning model involved a general description and an overview of specific objectives for the session, and students were provided with instructions for each of the laboratory activities. They found that it was a learning opportunity for students to carry it through online, even if traditionally it was done face to face. I have also read in a medical blog the term blended learning magic, wherein they try to incorporate one part of a certain model with another part of, say, station rotation. Remember our roles in blended learning? This could be our time to look into combining models while we are still waiting for our time to have limited face-to-face. Some teachers use one or more models to make their classroom content more engaging and rigorous and do it per unit or grading. However, if we are still newbies in blended learning, it is best to follow the simplest model that will work with our goals, objectives, and outcomes. All in all, choose a blended learning model that engages and empowers the learning of our learners, not impede them.